Good afternoon, one and all. My name is B. Srinivas. I am handling subject called microprocessors and microcontrollers. I belongs to EC department. Today, we cannot imagine the world without microprocessors and microcontrollers. How this electronics and communication has become more and more popular in the engineering field of electronics is, I can say that because of microprocessors and microcontrollers. Because you see today most of the fields of engineering is replaced by some of the electronic equipments, and those equipments are run by the heart of those equipments is called microcontrollers today. And later on, this after this microcontrollers are modified into system on chips. For example, our mobile phone. Our mobile phone is a system on chip. Means total system is placed on a single chip. That is what we call a system on chip. After that, we are having one more which is called programmable SOC. That we will see in applications in the previous, the coming classes. So this is the total architecture of my syllabus, my subject syllabus. MPMC, it has 5 units. And this is the syllabus for unit 1. And in the unit 1, I was given 3 PPTs earlier. Introduction to my MPMC, functional diagram of MPMC, and register organization of MPMC. And today I'm going to explain one more important topic which is called as memory segmentation, memory addresses, and programming model. Right. So to learn this, first we have to learn about computer system. So this is the computer system block diagram. Even though we all know that computer is made up of, it is defined as it is an electronic device. Even though it is electronic device or a hardware, but it needs to run. It needs some software to run this hardware, because this hardware is not manually visible or manually operated. So that's why they are all available in the form of chips. So to operate those chips and for higher speed of operation, for more performance, we need software. So this software is nothing but set of programs which are arranged in a particular order to execute the instructions step by step. That is what we call the software. And this software is called set of programs, and set of programs is one program is called a set of instructions that we will see in the next coming slides. So this software basically two types, not C, C++, Java. They are called software programming languages, right? So software means system software and application software. So to design this system software and application software, we need that kind of programming languages. C, C++, Java, Python, and so on. Different types of languages we need. So software is system software means this software helps to run the system, and application software means for user-based applications can be designed by using this application software. And this system software is again different types: Windows-based, Linux-based, Unix-based, Solaris-based. Like that, we're having different types of system softwares. And whereas this application softwares means MS Office, MS Paint, different types of application softwares are there. And in this hardware, we are having mainly input, output, and this diagram you see that these are the parts of computer: CPU, memory, and input and output. So here you can see that. Right. So input devices, they are called keyboard, mouse, joysticks, and all. Output devices, display, printers, and all called output devices. Along with this, we are having two more. One is called as CPU, another one is called as memory unit. So the CPU again is having internal three parts, not only two here they are given two, but it has three parts. One is called as ALU, another one is called as control unit, and another one is called as register unit. So CPU comprise of or consisting of three parts: AL unit, control unit, and register set. And the memory unit, this is called fourth unit. And this memory unit is also having two parts: primary memory and secondary memory. The secondary memory is also sometimes called secondary storage devices. So the secondary memory is used to store the data permanently. Right? They're called hard drives, CD drives, floppy drives, DVDs, pen drives. They're all called secondary storage or secondary drives. Whereas primary memory is two types, RAM memory and ROM memory. Once again, in these two, even though they are primary memory of RAM and ROM, here RAM mainly called as RAM is the main primary memory, right? Why? Because here ROM is also used to store the data permanently, whereas RAM is used to store the data temporarily. It gives higher speed of operation that we will see in the next coming animation. So primary memory is the known as the main memory of the computer. So it stores programs and so in this primary memory of ROM, so it's here you can see it's available in the form of chip, and it stores operating system programming, partial information, user ID data, and so on. So here you can see that there are three types of ROM, ROM ROM, PROM, EPROM, and EEPROM. So that you already studied in the first year BTech. So these three are having different types of characteristics of storing of the data and erasing of the data that I don't want to go in detail. So main purpose of ROM is used to store the operating system user information. Suppose you take your mobile phone, there is no hard disk, there is no CD, DVD type of memory storage. There we have only ROM permanent memory. In that permanent memory only, we are storing our operating systems and our movies, our songs, our images, and so on. That is what we call the ROM in terms of mobile phone. But in computer system, we are having hard disk for storage of the data. So in computer system, this ROM is used to store the bootable BIOS based information, booting software. And this is the RAM, and this RAM is a read and writing of the memory. It is a volatile memory. Volatile means when there is a power failure, data will get erased. Why it has 8 chips, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, because this is available in the form of chips or cells. These are called chips or cells. So each chip can process only 8 bits of data. So latest mobile phones or latest what we call desktops or laptops since 5 to 10 years back onwards, they were all having 64 data lines or 64-bit processors. So to execute at a time 64 data, so 64 by 8 equal to 8. 8 into 8 equals 64 means, so to execute 8 bytes of data at a time, so we need 8 chips in RAM. So this is the connect. These are the connections between CPU, memory, input, and output. So here these three are having control bus, address bus, and data bus. So these the CPU, memory, and I/O devices are communicated through these buses. So that's why this bus is called system bus. Because system means CPU, memory, input, and output. So these three blocks are called a system, and the system is communicated by a bus. A bus is nothing but a group of wires or bundle of wires, electrical wires to communicate. So that's why it is called a system bus. So here are connections between processor and memory. So here this processor and memory is having memory address memory connection between memory and the processor. This block diagram gives processor, and this is the memory. This process is having three units: AL unit, control unit, and a register set. And register set, here we are having different types of registers. AL is nothing but address arithmetic and logical unit, and this is called control unit. Control unit provides the control signals for this ALU and these registers to process some data. And here MER stands for memory address register, means whenever you want to fetch some data or some instruction from this memory, then it must be fetched from in terms of address. So that address can be stored in this register. Like that, here if you see the next slide also, here we are having one segment that is called code segment register. So this code segment register 8086 acting like a memory address register. So to provide this facility, the memory is segmented into different blocks. That is what we call the memory segmentation. So this is called as memory data register. So memory data register helps us to store the address of the data where it is available in the memory. So in 806 block diagram also, if you see, so here we are having one data segment and extra segment. So data can be stored in this data segment and extra segment. So here this block diagram, if you see, we are having one memory data. At the time of execution, this memory data register address can be stored by this instruction register. And here we are having general purpose registers, and these general purpose registers are used by the ALU to perform operations. In 8086 also we are having AX, BX, CX and DX. These four are called as the general purpose registers: AX, BX, CX and DX. AX stands for accumulator, BX stands for base register, CX stands for counter register, and DX stands for data register. And these four registers are again categorized into 2 bytes of data: AX as AHL and DX as DHDL. Every register is having its own functionality, and they will be used for different purposes. So this is what we call the general purpose register of 8086. So this is the relation between general block diagram and 8086 block diagram. So any processor can be constructed through this kind of diagram only. So here we are having program counter register in a general block diagram. Program counter helps us to execute the address of next instruction, because process are completely run by the set of instructions only, and those instructions are also stored in memory. The current program instruction is stored by this register, and next address of next instruction is stored by this program counter. So this is called segmentation part, and this is called memory part, and this is called processor. And between memory and the CPU, we are having one more register is called cache memory. So we all know that about this cache memory. Sometimes we heard about this cache memory. What is a cache memory? Cache memory is a smaller and faster memory, and it is used to hold, or it is used to store the previously recently opened files information, like web addresses or any songs or anything are stored in our system. Also, we are having recently opened files. Such type of option is there. That is nothing but cache memory. So every time, instead of going, whenever you want to open a web address or something, every time instead of going to that address or that image, from here itself you can call the file, and speed of operation can be increased. So execution time will be less, and access time is less, and the speed of operation is increased. This is the operation of this cache memory. It's a part of CPU. Cache memory is a part of CPU. This cache memory is some kind of static RAM memory. So this cache memory is used to increase the performance of the processor, and it first checks for a corresponding entry in the cache. So CPU first checks the cache memory, whether this opening file is existing in the cache or not. If it's existing, then it will be execute very faster rate. That is of nano. Next one, random access memory, basically used for processing, volatile in nature, and it is also known as read or write memory. And it holds instructions temporarily. Smaller in size compared to storage, because storage is available in terms of gigabits, whereas this RAM is available in terms of gigabytes, 2 GB, 3 GB, 4 GB, like that. Today mobile phones are having only 8 GB maximum, and storage capacity for this ROM has been reached up to 128 GB. So if you compare this 128 GB with 8 GB or 6 GB, it is very less. Why RAM is important? Because a computer, if you want to access some data from this memory by the CPU, every time CPU had to wait for a secondary storage device like hard disk drive, a computer would be much slower if you call the data from the hard disk drive always. Instead of that, if you have some memory, whenever you call data from this hard disk, that will be stored by this RAM, and from the RAM it can call. So whenever CPU becomes free, then that call the data from the RAM easily, because RAM is nearby the CPU. That is the need of RAM. So these are the difference between SRAM and DRAM. How is memory is used? I was already explained. So when the internet browser is open, it is loaded from your hard drive and placed into RAM. So here you can see that an example. So here now it is reading data from the hard drive and it is loading into CPU. So this RAM can read the data from the hard drive and write data to the hard drive, and the RAM can read the data to CPU and write data to CPU. If we have more RAM, so more amount of speed of execution is allowed. So what is the relation between microprocessor and memory? Is nothing but microprocessor can be defined as multi-purpose clock driven and register based digital IC that accepts data from the input devices and input environment and process it according to the instructions stored in the memory. So processor cannot execute by itself. Right? Processor will read the data in terms of instructions or in terms of user data only from the main memory available. Right? So these instructions are permanently stored in ROM and temporarily stored in RAM. So as we have seen in the animation, so that's why we need this memory concept. So this memory is two types: segmented memory and non-segmented memory. This non-segmented memory is called as linear memory. So these are the connections between microprocessor and memory. So this is related to our present topic, 8086 microprocessor, how it is connected to memory. So here this is the memory place, and this is the memory place, and this is the microprocessor. So this is the interfacing part, how memory is interfacing with 8086. So to learn about next topics, here we need two power values. As we all know that two power values, two power means binary values. 2 power 0 equal to 1, 2 power 1 equal to 2 values, 2 power 2 equal to 4 values, 2 power 1 equal to means 0 or 1, 2 power 2 equal to 4 means 0 0 0 1 1 0 1 1, 2 power 3 equal to 8 means 3 bit combinations. Like that we can have different bits of combinations. 1 kilobits means 1024 bits. 1 kilobytes means 1024 bytes. Why we need to represent in terms of bytes? Because the data from the keyboard we are giving is in terms of ASCII format. ASCII is an 8-bit format. So here in the industry of computer industry, they are using this notation to represent the data. So 1 terabyte and 1 gigabyte. In Robo movie also we have seen that speed 1 terabyte. 1 terabyte means 1024 GB of speed it can functioning, and it can store the data of 1 gigabyte because it was loaded with so much amount of information about this world. That's why they took this much amount of memory. So this is the notation between a binary and hexadecimal. So here you can see that 4 zeros of binary is equal to 1 zero of H, because hexadecimal is the shortest form of binary to represent binary values in terms of 4 bits is called hexadecimal. So 4 ones equal to FH, 8 ones equal to 2 FH, because each F is equivalent of 8 bits, and 16 ones equal 64 kb. This is very very important for our computer microprocessors and microcontrollers. You have to remember this 8 ones and 16 ones. 16 ones means 16 FH is equal to 64 kb. So how it is equal to 64 kb? Take this in terms of 2 power. 2 power 16 equal to 64 kb. So 2 power 6 into 2 power 10 equal to 64 into 1 kb equal to 64 kb, because 2 power 6 is 64, 2 power 10 is 1 kb, so it is equal to 64 kb. Like that, we can define the remaining also. So 8086 is having 20 address lines that we can. So here onwards, we are going to see our topic memory segmentation. So memory segmentation is nothing but, so here this memory is completely available outside of the 8086. So how can you call the data? So there should be a connection between microprocessor and the memory. So whenever you are calling every time some instructions, those instructions will go into code segment. Whenever you are calling some data, that data will be stored in the data segment or extra segment. So that you can see here. So in memory, data is stored as bytes. Each byte has a specific address. So how many addresses are available in 8086? 8086 addresses or any processor address is not infinity. It has limitation. So 8086 is having 20 address lines. So this 20 address lines, you can have 2 power 20 bytes of memory. So this 2 power 20 bytes of memory is equal to 1 megabyte is equal to 1048 576, means 10,48,576 bytes of addresses are available. So this much of amount of memory is available in 8086 microprocessor. So this is the block diagram of 8086 where segmentation takes place. So here they are taking one more concept, how this memory is segmented. Right. So if you multiply 16 with 64 KB, right, you will get 1 MB physically. If you have doubt, you can test it. Right. So 1 MB of data is divided into 16 blocks, each with 64 KB. I have taken from this equation only. 16 blocks, each with the capacity of 64 KB. So that's why every register of segmented registers is having 16 bits. Right, because 16 bit means 2 power 16 equal to 64 KB, right? So each block is having 64 KB, and total memory is divided into 16 blocks, right? So 8086 used 4 blocks for different needs as segments is known as segmentation. So out of 16 blocks, they are taking only 4 blocks, and remaining memory can be used by interrupts or can be used by zones or applications. So this is the definition of segmentation. Segmentation is the process in which the main memory of the computer is logically divided into different segments, and each segment is having its own base address, because this physical address is 20 bits, whereas internally 20 bits, but internally 8086 is having only 16-bit registers. So there is a conversion mechanism of 1620 that we will see later. So segmentation is a process in which the main memory of the computer is logically divided into different equal blocks, are known as segmentation. So here you can see that why we need segmented memory into segmented registers. Register is a temporary storage element, and its capacity is also very less compared to memory, any type of memory. Right, even primary memory or secondary memory, its capacity is very less. Right, because the registers can store either 4 bits, can store 8 bits, can store or 16 bits, uh, register in terms of 8086 microprocessor. Because microprocessor is not a single unit, it has 3 units internally. One is called ALU, another one is called control unit, another one is called register set. So here you can see that. If you have doubt, you can see that you can go through the diagram of 8086. So that's why here we are taking. And one more reason is, right, it is very easy. That's why it is very easy to access data from the register compared to memory, because memory is completely available outside of the microprocessor. So then what happens? It enhances the speed of execution easily and at faster rates. So that's why here we are having internally some registers also, and memory is segmented into registers. So how these registers are designed? These registers are designed by using sequential digital circuits. So one of sequential digital circuit basic circuit is called flip-flap, and the flip-flap is a 1-bit memory cell. And to store n bit of data, I need n flip-flaps, because flip-flap can store only 1 byte of data. So that's why here we need n flip-flaps. Then, for example, I am giving here what the use of flip-flaps. So we know that 806 is a microprocessor. I want to copy the data from one location to another location, or one register to another register. Then how can we write this instruction? So move AX comma BX. So this instruction executes the content of BX simply shifted or copied or moved into AX register, because both are in terms of 16 bits only, right? So this is a sample program to understand how data segment and code segments are used this memory, right? So this is the data segment and this is the code segment. So here 0202H and 0408H are the two values I want to add. So these two values are stored in data segment. So this data segment is a part of memory. So the data segment register holds the 16-bit values. So then I need two memory locations or four memory locations, because each memory location can store 1 byte of data. So here it is 2 bytes of data, and here also it is called as 2 byte of data. So this program is called addition of two 16-bit values. So these two values are represented with A and B, and DW stands for define word, and C is the location, temporary location to store the result. That's called CDW question mark. Right. So this is the code segment. So in this code segment, we're having three instructions. One is called as move, another one is called add, another one is called int. So here these two are common instructions to for data segment addresses to copy the data. Next one, move AX comma A, means the variable A value loaded into AX register, the variable B value is loaded into BX register, and both are added. Add AX comma BX means the content of AX. What AX is holding A value. What is A variable A value? 0202. Right. The content of BX is B. B variable from B variable. What is B variable is holding? 0408. So these two values are adding. So whenever you want to add, I need add instruction. Add AX comma BX. So move C comma X means the content of X goes to the temporary storage element called C. So int 3 is the instruction to break the program to stop the program here. So the code segment will execute until the stop instruction has seen in the previous PPT was explained. So this int 3 will provide the breakpoint and stop instruction here. So data segment used to hold the data, right? And the code segment is used to hold the executable program. And extra segment also used to hold the data specifically for strings of up. You want to compare two strings. So one string can be holded by data segment, another string can be holded by extra segment. That's why extra segment is also called extra data segment. So stack segment is used to store the stack data. I want to listen 5 songs, I want to store 5 files, I want to call 5 files, like that. And where the stack of files will be stored is known as stacked segment. And the stack segment also used to execute the interrupt based programs that we will see later. So here you know that this code segment, data segment, extra segment, and stack segment. So here four segment registers are available. So each segment register capacity is also in terms of 16-bit, and its capacity is 64-bit. 64 KB. 64 KB means total it available 65,536 addresses are available. So here I am giving an example of segment. Suppose extra segment is having the address location of 7,000, code segment is having 3,000, and stack segment is 5,000, and data segment is 2,000. They are starting instead of all 0, 0, 0, 0, they evaluate some address location. And how the addresses are defined? The addresses are defined instead of 2,000, it is 20,000, because it is 16-bit, but it is 20-bit. So how it is the converting from 2020H, that we'll see in the next slide. So its last address is 2FFFH, right? Its last address is 3000 to 3FFH, 5000 to 5FFH, 7000 to 7FFH. Like that, we can have up to 64 KB of data. But starting address is 502 and ending address is 5FH. This is the complete 20-bit address from 502 to 5FH. So that we will see the programming part clearly. Next topic is called memory addresses in 8086. So how to call this address for memory in terms of 8086. So here the physical address or memory address can be called using this table. If code segment, then we have to take IP. If data segment, then we have to take BX, base address, destination and source index registers. If it is stack segment, I can use stack pointer and base pointer. Then what is this physical address? Physical address can be defined here. You can see in the next slide. So physical address is equal to segment register address into 10H. Why it is multiplied with 10H? So that we can see here. Right. Why it is multiplied with 10 here? Suppose I have a number 10. Then what is happening? If I multiply with 10, then one more zero will be added to this 10 to become 100. And if I have a number 100, if I multiply with 10, then what happens? It becomes 1000. Means the 100 is added with one more zero to become 1000. Like that, if I multiply with 10H, then it becomes right 1347H is my segment address. If I add or if I multiply with 10H, then what happens? It becomes 13470H. So like that, it becomes 1347H 5-bit address. It is a 60-bit address, but it is a 20-bit address. Like that, we can convert 16-bit to 20-bit. So that you can see here. See, this is my offset address. Offset address is instruction pointer or any register is only in terms of 16-bit. But this is segment address. I am multiplying segment address with 10H that we can see here. See, segment address is multiplied with 10H plus offset address. So that's why here it is adding with segment address is added with 000H. And both are added by this adder, which is called address conversion. So then it becomes physical address of 20 bits. Right. So this addresses, as I told you, from a why 8086 has become standard processor, because from 8086 onwards, it allows one more feature is called memory segment. Sorry, memory converted into banks. So whereas ARM processor is also having 4 banks of memory, because my ARM processor is 32-bit, so 4 into 8 equal to 32 bits. So each data can be represented as 1 byte of data. So 4 into 8 equal to 132-bit. So that's why here we are converting into bytes of data storage locations. So this part is called as even bank, this part is called as odd bank. Why? Because it is storing the odd locations 1, 3, 5, and it is having 0, 2, 4. So combinedly 0, 1 is 116-bit, 2, 3 is 116-bit, 4, 5 is 116-bit. So here 0, 2, 4 are even numbers, so it's called as even bank, and it is used to store the lower byte of value, and this is higher byte. It is used to store the higher byte of values, but they are having the odd values. It's called as odd address bank. So total 1 MB, total 1 MB can be written as 512 KB plus 512 KB, 50% and 50%. And here this diagram helps us how to call the data byte by byte, because in every memory is storing only 1 byte of data. So 8086 is also having D0, D7 and D815. So completely called 16 bits of data locations or data lines, but these 16 bits of data lines can be converted into D0, D7 and D8 to D15. Suppose I want to call only 1 byte of data, either lower byte or higher byte, then it may be 0, 1 or 1, 0. Suppose when it is 1, 0, how it call only lower byte of data? See, one condition here is when A0 is 0, then please call the lower byte of data. Right. When BH is 0, then call the higher byte of data. But here BH equal to 1. So BH equal to 1 means 1 bar. 1 bar means its value is 0. When its value is 0, it won't act. It is inactive. That's why it is calling the lower byte of data. Suppose if it is 0 1, how it is calling the higher byte of data or upper byte of data is called upper byte of data. See, BH equal to 0. BH equal to 0 means 0 bar equal to 1. So 1 means it is active. Here it is 1. When it is 1, A0 is 1. This lower byte will not be read. Like that, it may call 2 byte of data. It may call higher byte only 1 byte, or it may call only lower byte. When both are 1 1, BH is 1 and A0 is 1, then none are will be called. So these are the advantages of segmentation. It has powerful management mechanism and easily can share the data, and we can have the nice programming structure. These are, but here we have two types of segmentation: overlapping and non-overlapping. Overlapping means within one segment when it is executing, if we call the next segment also, then it is called as overlapping segment. If it is when a segment starts at a particular address and its maximum size can go up to 64 kilobytes, but if another segment starts before this 6-bit locational segment, then the two segments are said to be non-overlapping. It's not possible in this non-overlapping. Programming model means the microprocessor can run by the programs. So this 14 16-bit registers are like this, where we have 4 segment registers, 1 instruction pointer, and 4 general purpose registers, and 2 pointer, 2 source index, and 1 flag register. All helps to know or helps to write down the programs and edge rates. It's called programming model. So RAM is again two types: static RAM and dynamic RAM. And dynamic RAM is again three types: SDRAM, SDR RAM, and DDR RAM. Now today latest laptops and mobile phones also having DDR1, DDR2, and DDR3. DDR stands for double data rate. That's why speed has been increased today. So that's why when you buy the mobile phone, they are also giving the option how much amount of RAM this mobile is having, because to explain the speed of operation, they will say that it's having so and so RAM, so and so processor, so speed is so and so. So then people will try to buy that. Otherwise, they won't go for that. That is the importance of this slide. So this is the end of the recording. So if you have any doubt, you can ask me. Thank you.